What's going on, everyone? My name is Triforce Addiction. Welcome back to another COD mobile video. So this is not a normal patch notes video. Again, I'm going to kind of rush through this because I have other videos to work on. But the patch notes have officially been released, and some of these changes are pretty interesting, but I will admit, just in case you guys don't want to watch the entire video, there is no USS 9 nerf, but there are some interesting changes nonetheless. So if you guys are interested, you guys could just stick around. If not, you could just, of course, click out of this video. But yes, there is no USS 9 nerf. So first off, I do want to credit Bebbles. He's the one that actually released these notes early. It hasn't been released on Lakers on Duty just yet. So I kind of want to get this out. I just want to get this out, I guess, ahead of time. So yeah, so the first change is actually for the AK-47. So the 5.45 ammo, they actually added an 8% ADS speed buff for this attachment, as well as increasing damage for the second range, which really isn't much, but it does let you 3-shot to the head at a longer range, at least from what I saw. So yes, this thing is going to be a little bit faster and a lot more useful. So let's actually move on to the DRH buff. So the base lower arm multipliers went from 1.15 to 1.2. And the base ADS spread went from 18.9 to 15.9. So this thing's going to be a little bit more accurate, and it's going to do a tiny bit more damage, but not really enough to make too much of a difference. So now we move on to the Crig 6 buff. I guess for the fast extended mag A, they reduced the or I guess they increased the reload speed, as well as, decreasing the ADS time penalty from 12% to 8%. And for the other extended mag, or I guess the other fast extended mag, the reload time went from 15% to 20%. And for the penalty on the ADS, it went down from 20% to 14%. So these things are going to be a tiny bit more viable for all of you guys that still use this weapon. The ICR buffs, basically it's just one. They added an integrated suppressor barrel benefit. Now it gives you 8% ADS movement speed. So I guess, the ICR is not really used that often, but a decent change nonetheless. So now we move on to a bigger change, which is for the Striker 45. The 400mm stainless steel barrel had some movement overall changes that are positive, which basically the movement speed penalty went from 4% to 2%, and the ADS time penalty went from 16% to 12%. And there's another change for the Tactical Foregrip A, which added an 8% horizontal recoil buff, making it a lot more stable if you do use this attachment. So now we move on to the RAW MG buff. The base ADS spread went from 18.8 to 15.3, so it's going to be a hell of a lot more accurate. And for the base hit flinch, it went from 0.5 to 0.4, and the base bullet impact, which is probably one of the bigger changes, actually increased it from 1.5 to 2.0. So basically this thing's going to make you flinch a lot more, especially for those that do use snipers. It might be a little bit harder to go against people that use this weapon that are firing at you. So the VOK Rogue, probably one of the more confusing changes, but I got to understand it a little bit later on. So they increased the density of the spread pattern in the center when ADS from 2 to 3. So now there will be 3 pellets instead of 2 that will actually hit the center, basically making it, I think, better with damage at longer ranges. I think that's what he's trying to say, but yeah, this just basically overall is going to help the VOK Rogue with its damage. For the SPR and the Kilo bolt action, they both got ADS time buffs. So the base ADS time went from 350 milliseconds to 320 for the SPR. And for the Kilo bolt action, would probably receive one of the bigger changes, was the base ADS time from 300 milliseconds to 250 milliseconds. So these things are actually going to be monsters in terms of marksman rifles that are bolt action, because I don't think we've ever had these marksman rifles be at this speed, or at this new speed as well. So these are definitely going to be a good alternative if you are not wanting to use sniper rifles in multiplayer matches. So now we also have an HG40 buff. The base damage profile went from 29, 25, 20, 17 to 30, 25, 21, 18. This one doesn't really do that much. The damage is more or less going to be the same. So don't mind this change. So the Holger also got a buff. The ADS movement speed went from 2.51 meters per second to 2.62 meters per second. So just faster strafing time, nothing really crazy. It's not going to really move it up the list at any point. So the Tundra got another nerf. So the base hit flinch went from 2.2 to 3. So for anyone that's using this, you're going to be flinching a hell of a lot more. But again, it doesn't really matter. There's already attachments plus toughness that could help with flinch. So again, yeah, it's not going to matter too much. But I think for like movement speed people, you know, people that use fast switch, it's definitely going to affect them. I will say that. So for the XM4, I think they nerfed the ADS spread from 16.8 to 17. I don't really think that's much of a nerf. Also, the Odin got a buff to its bullet spread as well, going from 19 to 17. So that's a pretty decent buff, I would say. Again, I don't really see the point of them increasing the spread for the XM4 by 0.2. I don't really think that's not really going to do anything, but I guess. So the stim shot nerf, this is the controversial change that a lot of people are either hating or loving. So the speed boost decay time goes from 3 seconds to 1 second. So you're only going to get a speed boost for 1 second. The speed boost amount went from 25% to 10%. Which also yeah, you're gonna slow down a lot. And they said greatly increased healing values. I'm not sure if that's actually a good thing or a bad thing. I would say that makes it heal faster. If anyone could explain that to me, why that is actually a nerf. Maybe that's just a mistake, but yeah. Anyways, the C4 also got nerfed. They reduced the max throwing range. Again, I mean, I haven't really seen a lot of people use this, mainly because the massive amounts of people using Flak Jacket because of Martyrdom might not affect too many people. The Sparrow buff increased bullet damage reduction. The way that's said, I'm not really sure if it's increasing the damage, because it says reduction. I don't really know what that means. I'm just going to go with that they're maybe increasing the damage, but okay. So the Shadow Blade got probably the biggest buff for all the operator skills. So they basically just adjusted everything that has to do with blocking mode. They adjusted the method to activate it. They increased the range of the blocking mode. They reduced the energy consumption when in blocking mode. They increased the movement speed in blocking mode. So yeah, just pure blocking mode madness here. For respawn beacon buff, they increased the limit of respawns each player can use with the beacon. The duration now is from 15 seconds up to 40 seconds. And the Tempest, I would say, is another big change for operator skills. They removed the charging mechanics, so now when you shoot someone, it's just going to immediately shoot them instead of you having to charge and then shoot. They also optimized the bullet hit logic, as well as the bullet AoE range increase. So I think this actually means that anyone that you shoot, and if there's any players nearby that get shocked as well, that range might increase. So people that are close by but at a longer range might actually be affected by the shock as well. They also increased the control device. This is the one for, I think, holding down objectives. They optimized the throwing logic and the duration from 25 seconds to 40 seconds. And they also added a battery time for the heartbeat sensor, which basically is only active for 20 seconds per life. So yes, you guys are going to have to be a little bit more careful when using this, but I don't know by how much. This one, the Stormball buff, could now be used continuously. I don't know what this actually means. Me and my friend Parker were kind of like talking about this. I don't know if it's like an infinite Stormball that you could just spam. I'm pretty sure that's not the case. I'm hoping that's not the case. But yeah, this one's a little bit up to interpretation. Moving on to the Tracker buff, the Tracker perk buff. They increased the frequency of footsteps display from 1 second to 0.2 seconds. I don't know what that means. I think it's better to detect enemies, I would say. And here's another change for the Vulture perk buff. You can now refill 20% of the current mag. So I guess it wasn't 30%, it was actually 20%. So yes, every scavenger pack you pick up, it's going to replenish 20% of your bullets. So I guess that's kind of helpful. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it needed a change like this, but yeah. So the Sand Turd also got buffed. The score requirement went from 560 to 460. Same goes for the Wilson buff. It optimized control as well as increasing the time that it can be used. The RCXD buff, probably because of the RCXD racing minigame that we're going to have next season, they optimized the control, so it should be easier to control. Same thing goes for the Dragonfly or the Hawk X3. Both of them also got optimized controls. The Guardian buff got increased health from 650 to 800, so it's going to have a little bit more health. It's going to be a little harder to take down. The Napalm, VTOL, Stealth Chopper, and Gunship all got their score requirements lowered. So yeah, I guess that's pretty good. I'm not really that sure if all of you guys could actually get to that point in in ranked, knowing how chaotic it can be. But also the EMP system buff, they moved this one to the 2nd tier for persistence, and the score required is now, it went from 1150 to 950, so it's going to be a lot easier to unlock this thing, especially for persistence. Orbital laser buffs, the score required went from 990 to 920, so it's going to be a little easier to unlock. The emergency airdrop buff increased the chance to get tier 3 score streaks slightly. So yeah, there's a slightly higher chance you could get like gunships, or I don't know, maybe basically anything that's like top tier, I would say. And here are the battle royale changes. The tank got buffed with significantly increased HP, and the armor tank nerf, machine gun heat up speed increased, main gun reload time increased, main gun damage reduced. And I think, yeah, that's it for all the patch notes. So yeah, there's a lot of pretty interesting changes. Again, none of them are really to the point where it's like game changing, but if anything, they're more, I guess, quality of life improvements, especially for when it comes to the weaponry and the operator skills. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe for some more COD mobile content. I'll see you guys next time.